Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Obviously, a lot to talk about in today's show. The first 2 days of training camp are in the books, which is really exciting. I can't wait to get into some of my thoughts on that. We'll go through all the stuff you need to know about the first 2 days of training camp. And then we'll get obviously into the fan Q&A. But first, before we do that, just a couple notes here in case you guys don't know about it. The joint practice between the Bears, I think, which is this upcoming Wednesday, apparently is going to be streamed on Twitter, I guess. So if you guys want to watch that, I thought that was kind of cool that they're doing that. Usually the Dolphins, especially compared to other franchises, don't really show training camp a lot, which kind of sucks. If you look at any of the other feeds of the other teams, like some of them, you get to see like a lot of 7-on-7 drills, stuff like that. You didn't really get to see that. At least through the Dolphins' social media, they don't really do that as much as some of the other teams do, which is very strange to me. But it is what it is. But they are going to be doing that this upcoming week, and I know a lot of you guys would be interested in that. And some other training camp notes here. Mike McDaniel in his first training camp press conference had this to say about Tua. He says this is what he said about Tua. He says, Mike McDaniel, again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Mike McDaniel says he wants quarterback Tua Tagovailoa to work on having, quote, a short-term memory. Tua is super hard on himself, which is a good thing, but too much of anything in excess isn't good, obviously, is what he said, and he has high standards. I don't want to impede the next play. I thought that was interesting. Nice little observation on how to his game is. And a lot of great quarterbacks, I think, you have to, and we've heard all these athletes say it, like people have played with the great quarterbacks, they all kind of have to have that. Just that kind of a delusional confidence. It really does help, especially in football. And it's interesting to see that I don't know, just Mike McDaniel noticing something that like Tua is too hard on himself. Don't get too down on yourself. If you make up a mess of a play or something, like just move on to the next one, which is kind of a coach cliche. But yeah, and then the next one is Mike McDaniel saying what his thoughts were on what Tyreek Hill has been saying through the media and on his podcast. This is what Mike had to say. He said, quote, if Tyreek is saying it, he means it. Him and Tua are developing a great relationship and rapport. I know that you guys know, which is that Tyreek believes in his quarterback. I don't know how you guys feel about all the stuff that Tyreek Hill has been saying throughout the media. It kind of is getting out of control, in my opinion. I'm like, all right, we get it. Even as a hardcore Dolphins fan, it is a little, I don't know, sometimes it kind of feels a little over the top. But I like it. I'm glad that he's doing it. I like that better than, what the Brent Grimes situation when Ryan Tannehill was, which was even just a completely different feel, obviously. It's nice to have a feeling that whether it works or not, the organization is behind him as much as they possibly can be. And they're doing everything for him to succeed. And, we've talked about this multiple times on other podcasts, but they didn't do that for Tannehill, and that really hurt his career in Miami. And it's nice to see that they're just starting to do that with Tua, because they did not do that his first 2 years. So I guess at the end of the day, it can be over the top sometimes with Tyreek Hill and some of the stuff that he says in the media. But at the same time, it's just nice to see his teammates and staff members be so enthusiastic about him and positive. Because that's not how it was before. It was very strange and awkward and negative is how I would describe it his first 2 years. And Mike McDaniel gave us an update on Byron Jones. He said he's fully expecting to get himself ready for week 1. In case you guys don't know, he was placed on the PUP list, which was kind of scary. He's recovering from that Achilles injury that has been hurting him for, it seems like, over a year now. I can't remember when that was first reported, but he's been dealing with that Achilles injury for a while. So it's nice to know that he'll be back, though, pretty early on in the year. So yeah, there you go. There's just like a couple little nuggets there. The Byron Jones one was definitely the most positive one. So let's get into training camp. So we're going to start with day 1. Um, oh yeah, I completely forgot to mention this. I'm sorry, guys. Before we get into the training camp, I just looked at it right here. Mohamed Sanu was signed by the Miami Dolphins. I completely forgot about that. Um, there's not much to say here. I think the biggest thing, I don't know if he'll have that big of an impact on the team at all, honestly. He does, he had a career year in this scheme, obviously. He fits the scheme well. He's a great run blocker. But I think more than anything, I think the thing that he does add the most of is he's a great veteran player who's had success and seen success in this system. And I think he's going to be able to really kind of help get everybody up to speed in this system. I think that's the reason why he was signed. You can tell, and we're going to get into this a little bit, and some of the other remarks that Mike McDaniel had, that he knows that the offense is going to start off slow, and he said that a few times in his press conferences. So this kind of feels like a signing that's like, all right, let's get the boys ready to go as fast as possible by bringing someone in who's been through the system before, who's had success in it, and who's obviously a veteran player, can really help the young guys and some of the guys who haven't played in this scheme before along a little bit quicker. And I think it's obviously a very smart idea. Similar to what they've done with Melvin Ingram, which I thought was missing from the defense last year. I thought that's why the biggest, obviously McCourty got hurt earlier last year, and then we didn't have Kyle Van Noy last year. There wasn't really a veteran guy that's been around a lot of success that was in the locker room. And I thought that's why the defense kind of wasn't as good as it probably could have been. It was one of the factors. Obviously, there's some other factors there that they kind of lost that veteran. So I'm really happy with what Chris Greer has done and adding some of that into the locker room, kind of spreading some good veteran players around a little bit. I think it's going to help the team. So here's your top, according to Sports Illustrated. This story comes from Sports Illustrated. These are your top training camp performers. Cornerback Trill Williams apparently had a very nice practice. He continues his good, I would say, off-season work with the Dolphins. Trill Williams had the biggest play of practice when he picked off Teddy Bridgewater pass near the sideline and took off in the other direction, which would have been a pick six if it was a real game. Good for Trill Williams. Good to see the secondary continue to kind of crank out these really good players. It is such a deep position for this team. So many good different skill sets on this roster. Even with some of the news that Igbenogany's having a good off season as well. It's pretty insane. It's an embarrassment of riches, and can't have enough good secondary players, especially in this scheme. And not to mention the fact that they're being coached by Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain, which is even cooler. So the whole thing is just pretty awesome all around. Which goes back to our players who have had a lot of success at those positions, teaching some of these younger players, which is always a good thing. Next, on the top performers list, edge defender Jalen Phillips was a factor in the pass rush, getting into the backfield twice on plays that might have ended in a sack in an actual game. So shout out to Jalen Phillips continuing his really good offseason. He already won an orange jersey, which if you're not familiar with, everybody obviously is familiar with that listening to the show. He's already been an MVP of a practice before. So Jalen Phillips having a really good offseason as well. Good to see him get off to a good start in training camp. And then another top performer is Noah Igbenogany. Sorry, guys. Noah Igbenogany in the first training camp. Batting away at Tagovailoa pass intended for Tyreek Hill and one-on-one coverage near the sideline. The enthusiastic reaction from the Dolphins defenders on the sideline was cool to see. Writes Sports Illustrated. Cool to see. It's also just cool to see Igbenogany. For him to, in a one-on-one play against Tyreek Hill and get a pass deflection is a massive improvement from how Igbenogany has been playing so far. And you know what? He's had bad luck. Let's just put it that way. The reason we're not going to get into the whole thing, but he's had to play behind some really good players. And it's nice to see that he's finally, first of all, number one, that the man hasn't given up, which is awesome. Number two, that the organization hasn't given up on him, which I think is a miracle. And then number three, that he's finally, like I say, like to persevere through all of that and to develop into something, I think is awesome. It's a cool story. Hopefully he can keep it up. And then this is awesome to hear as well. Rookie 4th round pick Eric Ezukama had a nice catch. Again, this is in the top performers list category. Eric Ezukama had a nice catch over the middle and ended practice with a leaping grab on a deep pass from Skylar Thompson near the sideline. Apparently, according to all the beat writers on social media, Eric has done a really good job with body control and coming down with a lot of really contested catches. And that's something that the Dolphins receivers don't really have. Like Cedric Wilson is a tall guy, but his game is not very physical. And it's nice to kind of have that big physical run after the catch receiver that can come down with those 50-50 balls like Eric. And I think that's why he can get some serious playing time because his skill set is so different from everybody else's. So that's it. Those are your top performers from the first day of training camp. Trill Williams, Jalen Phillips, Noah Igbenogany, and Eric Ezukama. At least that's according to... And again, we have to rely on everybody else's eyes for this, obviously. I'm not there. Unfortunately, it'd be awesome to see some of this stuff. But and it's always tricky when you have to kind of rely on other people's... Because it is kind of subjective, the way some players play. So it is what it is, but... Those were your top performers according to Sports Illustrated. So let's go to the quarterbacks for the first day of training camp. Let's start with Tua. Again, this comes from Sports Illustrated. Tagovailoa's first pass was a nice completion for Tyreek Hill that would have gone for about 15 yards, but there weren't many other highlights in team drills. He did have a nifty over-the-top corner throw to Hill against two defenders, but that came in a 7-on-7 period. I really want to save Tua for the end, so we'll keep moving on because there's some things I want to say about the whole Tua thing so far, and it's only 2 days in practice, but I do have some thoughts on it. So we'll move on to Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater had the most impressive completions in team drills, including throws to rookie 4th round pick Eric Ezukama, Braylon Sanders, Jalen Waddle over the middle, but in addition to the pick 6 he threw. So, again, Teddy threw the pick 6 to Trill Williams, like we said earlier. He also lofted a soft pass in the direction of Cedric Wilson that allowed Keon Croston. I always get this guy's name wrong. I think I still did it wrong. So, the special teams player, if you're not familiar with him, sorry I butchered his name, to bat the pass away when Wilson appeared open. Nothing new there. Teddy Bridgewater sucks. Not only the fact that I did not like Teddy Bridgewater's game before he came to Miami, but his introduction press conference was even worse. Doesn't really surprise me that Teddy Bridgewater, and I don't want to sound mean or anything like that, but he's not playing well. So there it is. I love how they're like, yeah, he had impressive completions. And then threw a pick 6. It's like, okay. And then also had a bad pass, which was broken up by a backup, like a 5th-string special teams player. I'm just saying, everybody. I know that. I don't know. I'm sounding a little angry about, a little mean about it, but it is what it is. Man's making millions of dollars. Who cares? And then we'll end with Skylar Thompson, who had a really good OTAs. But now we're in training camp. So, rookie 7th round pick Skylar Thompson had a pretty uneventful day. His best throw was a completion over the middle to Jalen Waddle. So that's as much depth as you're going to get on Skylar Thompson. And in case you're wondering who won the orange jersey, Alex Ingold showed up to practice with an orange jersey. It was given to him because of his rehab from his ACL tear, and I think Waddle is the one who actually won it for day 1 of practice. So, and honestly, apparently, we'll get into it right after this, but Jalen Waddle killing it so far in practice. So is Tyreek Hill. Everything that we've seen from Tyreek Hill so far, which is not, I don't know who would be surprised by that. Man's a Hall of Famer, but yeah, it's been great for Tyreek Hill too. So let's move on to day 2 of training camp. There's not really much to say about day 1. Defense, well, I'll save my thoughts for the end. We'll just run through some of these notes. All right, so let's move on to day 2. And this is the wrong page, guys. Bear with me. Here we go. Day 2. These are your day 2 top performers. Or did I just read day 2? No, excuse me, sorry. Sorry, guys. I got mixed up. Anyway, these are your day 2 top performers. Again, Trill Williams. Wait, okay, hold on, guys. I'm all over the place. No, I'm alright. My bad. Sorry. Trill Williams, I guess, had another good day of practice. Yeah, okay, here we go. Sorry, guys. Here are the top performers of day 2. I got completely mixed up. I'm sorry. Cornerback Trill Williams, who had the biggest play of practice Wednesday with a pick 6, had another really good play when he got his arm over the shoulder of Shearfield on a pass from Teddy Bridgewater. So he deflected another pass from Teddy. So there you go. Trill Williams, another strong performance by him in his second day of training camp. Wide receiver Jalen Waddle wore the orange jersey as the best practice player for Wednesday, so there you go. Waddle did win best practice for the first practice, and had himself another impressive outing. He caught 6 passes in team drills and another passing period where 5 receivers went out against 9 defenders. Waddle's first catch was an impressive grab of a long pass from Bridgewater where he outjumped rookie Kader Kohu. I'm sure that's wrong. Anyway, there you go. And the grab was nice. It was a nice, you can watch, there's a video of it on the social media stuff. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It was a really nice catch. The last top performer for the second day of training camp was running back Chase Edmonds. Looked fast and decisive. Again, this is all from Sports Illustrated on his running plays, and then made a nice catch of a Bridgewater pass over the middle that appeared to be thrown a little bit behind him. So Teddy Bridgewater not getting off to a good start. Throwing a lot of pick sixes, a lot of deflected passes. Not great. But yeah, Chase Edmonds, good to know that he's doing well. And again, let's go through the quarterbacks on some of the notes here. So we'll start with Tua. Through the first set of team drills, when he only had 1 pass attempt, so keep that in mind. He had 1 pass attempt in team drills, and then in a passing period, he went 6 for 9. So Tua, I don't know. Let's just read it like this. He went 6 for 9 in the passing period. Tagovailoa was having himself a really good practice, but things went south a bit during the final, the end of the practice. When they went to 11-on-11, Tagovailoa ended up 5 for 9, and though in 11-on-11 drills. In 11-on-11 drills with a long completion of he had a long completion of 45 yards to Tyreek Hill, though Hill had to slow down because the ball was underthrown. Which we'll get to this in the end. Worse, there were 2 dropped interceptions against Tua, one by Brandon Jones and one by Nick Needham. On the Needham play, the cornerback was playing outside and undercut Preston Williams on a deep slant. Tua's best pass came on a deep slant to rookie Braylon Sanders. I don't know why I want to say Saunders. Braylon Sanders for about a 20-yard gain. So I guess Tua went 11 for 18 overall in the practice. He had a nice completion to Tyreek Hill, had a nice completion to Braylon Sanders, and apparently could have had 2 passes intercepted by Nick Needham and Brandon Jones. We'll get into my thoughts about this at the end here. Bridgewater was, going back to Teddy, Bridgewater was 9 for 12 in 11-on-11 drills, though that included some dump-offs and a lot of short throws. His most impressive pass actually was incomplete, as Williams dropped a perfectly thrown pass down the right sideline. So a deep pass was dropped by Preston Williams from Teddy Bridgewater. And then last but not least, Skylar Thompson. Rookie 7th-round pick Skylar Thompson had a rough day, particularly when it comes to the center quarterback exchanges. Thompson bobbled a snap 3 times, though without replay, it was difficult to gauge who was at fault. He ended up attempting only 2 passes in team drills, completing a check down to running back Garrett Dokes before a long incompletion on the last play. So he went 1 for 2. I don't really know if there's much to say about that. The man had two attempts to pass the football. Other practice highlights. Not a great practice for tackle Greg Little, who committed a false start and later held Jalen Phillips after Phillips got around him on a pass rush. Hill got himself wide open across the middle on the first play of team drills, but later dropped a short throw from Tua when he was wide open in the flat. The throw was a little bit off mark, but still should have been caught. Hill and Williams weren't the only ones who dropped passes, that being Tyreek Hill and Preston Williams, because it also happened when rookie running back Zaquandre White also had a drop. Rookie 4th-round pick Eric Azukama again showed his great body control, twisting to make a catch on a deep sideline pass from Tua in the when he went 6 for 9 until Javon Holland came over and knocked the ball away. So here's the thing about subjective football watch. If I saw that Tua had a nice deep pass to Eric, but it got broken up because Javon Holland is a freak, just a really good player, I'd be like, okay. I mean, it obviously wasn't that bad. I love that it's just weird to read some of this stuff. It's like, okay, the guy goes, yeah, Tua had a great start to practice, but then missed a few throws, I guess, that were dropped in Lebanon. I don't know. Anyway, the point is like, you probably should have added that in the quarterback assessment thing, I guess. Along with Phillips, rookie free agent DeAndre Johnson also got around Greg Little on a pass rush. And then second-year tight end Hunter Long had a couple of catches after a very quiet first day. Yeah, apparently Hunter Long's been killing it. This is poorly written. I want that to be known. And I'm not the greatest at reading this stuff out loud, but I'm just wanting everybody to know this was poorly written. I'm not criticizing it too much, but there was a few typos. But anyway, the point is. What is the point? The defense. All right, let's get into my thoughts about all this stuff. I will say that some people. Here's some things that weren't added in this that I've also read. Hunter Long has been having a great first few days, which is great. What else did I want to add? Apparently, Austin Jackson is also killing it. Now, granted, I don't think anybody has put pads on yet, so that doesn't start, I guess, until this upcoming week. Then they put on pads. So we won't really know until pads are put on how the offensive line is doing. But apparently Austin Jackson been doing a really good job within the scheme, understanding the scheme, and kind of acclimating to it, I guess. Dude, you know what I'm going to start doing? Because I suck at reading this stuff. I'm going to write my own, I'm going to read it, credit Sports Illustrated, and then just write my own notes. And then read them off. I think that'll probably be better. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully it wasn't too incoherent. Okay. Here are my thoughts on this training camp because I do have some things to say. And I want to just start. I just want to focus on the offense. The defense is very talented, and they've already had a lot of success in the regular season. We don't need to talk about the defense. The defense is fantastic. Josh Boyer is a really good defensive coordinator. There's talent throughout this entire roster. Shout out to Melvin Ingram. That was a really good signing as well. This defensive line, and apparently, I forgot to mention this, Raekwon Davis is also apparently having a really good training camp so far as well. So, again, the defense, and Mike McDaniel has said this, has been kind of beating the offense, and we'll get into that here in a second, but we don't need to talk about it. The defense is great. It's good to see Jalen Phillips continue to kind of grow, because he had such a really good last 2 months of the season last year. It's good to see him continue to climb. So yeah, defense is sick with it. We know that. So let's go to the offense. This is where I really want to kind of. Mike has done a really good job in press conferences, being like, we expected the offense to start off slow, but the defense has been in the same scheme for the last 2 years. They know what they're doing. They're ahead of the offense because of that. Not to mention the fact that the defense is very talented. And people forget even Javon Holland is literally on a different planet. Anyway, back to the offense. So it's nice to know that Mike expected this, and giving obviously everybody reasons why. And I think that's a sign of a good coach. But I will say I'm a little disappointed Now, there's a lot going against the offense. Number one, they're going against a really talented defense that, like I said, that's been in the same scheme for a few years now and has had a lot of success. And Tua is on his third offense that he has to learn, and he has a lot of new players that he's playing with. So, obviously, the offense is going to be a little bit slower than the defense. I understand that. But, at the same time, here's why I'm disappointed. I am disappointed that Tua hasn't had better practices. Now, this is just the first two practices. The reason I'm disappointed is because covering this team for the last 4 or 5 years on this channel, I've read the same stuff over and over again, and again, being a fan of this team as far as long as I have been, you read, you hear the same stuff every year with this team in this franchise, that the offense is having very inconsistent days while the defense is getting the best of them and is just a little bit more consistent. I don't think ever on this channel have I read or heard that the offense has consistently been good in practice. Now, this is all backed up by the history of this franchise in the last 20 years. We haven't had a top 10 passing offense, or I think even a top 10 in total offense, since 1995. We haven't had a Pro Bowl quarterback since Dan Marino. So this is all kind of stuff that we've read and heard before, and it is disappointing to hear that because of all the new additions and the talent that Tua does have that he could potentially grow into in the NFL, and all of this stuff, like how good Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel have done of assembling this offense. I really like the Shanahan scheme. Even going back to Mike Shanahan, I've always liked the scheme of the Shanahans. It's very, very cool. It always works. If you look at the historic numbers, it's always great. So I believe in this scheme. I believe in Mike McDaniel because of all the players that have coached under him, the coaching staff he's assembled. It's all glowing reviews, which is not something that happens with Joe Philbin and Adam Gase. I'm forgetting someone in there. I wouldn't say Brian. I think Brian, when he first got here, I would say it was more even, but Adam Gase and Joe Philbin, nobody ever liked them with the beat writers, and even Jason Taylor, people that are around the team, they never really liked them. So that has been different. At least that's been different. Mike McDaniel is getting a ton of good reviews and praise. That's been different. But like I said, it's just a little disappointing to hear the same old story of the offense is not doing so well. It is, and now there are reasons for that, and legitimate reasons for it. But I hope it turns around soon, because it sucks to hear that, because I've heard it for my entire life being a Dolphins fan, and I'm sure the real old heads that are Dolphins fans are sick of hearing it too, because they've heard it for quite a while, and all of us are sick of hearing it. I've had to deal with it for quite a while too. I just hope that, and again, there have been good plays, even that we read that Tua had a few nice completions down the field. But it's the consistency that we're looking for. We haven't seen a consistently good offense in over 20 years. We haven't had a Pro Bowl quarterback in over 20 years. It's time to, obviously, we want to see a competent offense and a consistently good one. So in that, it's disappointing. I would say the first 2 days of training camp have been disappointing. Like I said, we know the defense is great. They've had regular season success. We know that already. And we've seen great defenses over the last 20 years. If you've been around that long, we want to see a great offense, and I think that's what will get the Dolphins out of that mediocrity that we've been in as fans and had to watch for so long. That's the missing piece. That's the ingredient. Is consistent quarterback play and a consistently good offense, and we haven't seen that. And especially going back and watching old Dolphins football and watching early 2000s, 2008, even through 2013, and just really sitting in the fact that this franchise has had worse quarterback play than I would honestly argue pretty much everybody. Even Detroit and Cleveland had Baker. They had the Baker year, which was really good when they won the playoff game against the Steelers. Even Stafford and Detroit has had really good statistical years. He went to the playoffs twice. So the Dolphins have really had. I mean, I'm really trying to think of. Even the Jaguars had. I guess not. I guess that would be. They had some good David Garrard years. I guess that would be the closest comparison to what the Dolphins have been through with these quarterbacks. Now, that's not to say that the Dolphins haven't seen okay quarterback years in those 20 years. Like the one Tannehill 2016 year, the 2014 Tannehill year wasn't terrible. But my point is like, honestly, out of all the franchises, this team has had the worst quarterback play over that span of time, and it's not even really that close. And it's depressing, and I hope it turns around. And it sucks that we kind of are hearing the same old story again. Oh, the offense is not as slow, all this stuff. So hopefully that, again, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself too many times, but hopefully we will see growth in this offense and they start to kind of get acclimated into the scheme and with the new players, and we get to see them take off. And I'm again, like I said, good on Mike McDaniel for knowing that was going to happen and preparing for that with the additions of like Mohamed Sanu to help the team kind of get acclimated to the scheme and get them up to speed. Like that kind of stuff is like, oh, he knew that this was going to happen. He was prepared for it, which is a really good sign for Dolphins fans. So yeah, that's it. That's half an hour around training camp. So I guess we'll get. I'm happy. I'm happy about that. Happy to talk Dolphins football. It's getting really, really close, which I'm excited about. I'm very excited to see how they do against the Bears. Because that team is not as talented as our team, and I hope the offense would beat the heck out of them. Honestly, it's also good to see Hunter Long kill it. I really like Hunter Long, and I know everybody knows that, but I really do like him. I think he has a bright future in the league, and he fits this scheme to a T. And there's been so many like mediocrely talented tight ends that have had success in the Shanahan scheme. That Hunter Long, who is a very talented tight end in my opinion, or at least has the opportunity to be, for someone like him to be in the scheme who fits it perfectly, he could really have a great breakout year. Yeah, man, that quarterback thing that I did where I ranked the top 5 best quarterbacks and top 5 worst quarterbacks since Dan Marino retired was actually disgusting and depressing, and very depressing, actually. It just opened a lot of old wounds about how, like, God, man, it's been a journey, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a journey of hate and gross and, like, dark. Like, it's been bad. It's been really bad. So let's move on to the fan Q&A. I don't want to be a negative Nancy about this stuff, but man, let's get to the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Steve. He says, if the line play improves and if they stay healthy, how good do you think this zone block running game could be with the rotation of with the rotation of Michelle, Mostert, and Edmonds? I'm out of my mind. So the question from Steve is, how if the line stays healthy, how good can this run game be with the Shanahan scheme and with Sony Michel, Chase Edmonds, and Raheem Mostert? It can be insanely good. And it's good to hear that the offensive line is playing well. And again, another great veteran addition to the team, which was Teron Armstead, who can kind of pass down some of this stuff to the younger players. Plus, the younger players are developing and getting better, and which is good to hear. That some of these high draft picks are starting to kind of pan out a little bit. Plus, the additions, like I said, of Teron Armstead and Connor Williams are going to help out a lot. So yes, like the scheme is really good. And I think what Kyle Shanahan has done, and Mike McDaniel with him, they've done a really good job of bringing Kyle's father's, Mike Shanahan's scheme into and putting this like a new age twist on it. And that scheme has always been great. Even since like the beginning in the 90s, or even when Mike Shanahan coached the Raiders early in his career, it's always been a great scheme. And a lot of players that weren't great players have had a lot of success in it. And so yeah, like Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds are very talented players. Sony Michel is also a really good fit for the scheme. So the sky is the limit. As long as like you said, if the Lions can stay healthy and if they're improved, it's a very, very good offense from. Out of all the schemes that the Dolphins have ran, we talk about the New England scheme and the Chan Gailey scheme, the Joe Philbin / Mike McCarthy scheme that was here, the Adam Gase Peyton Manning thing that we tried out. All of those pale in comparison to the Shanahan scheme. The Shanahan scheme is very similar to what Bill Walsh did, and what Mike Holmgren then went on to do, and Andy Reid, and then obviously John Gruden, that they all kind of copied. It's a scheme that's been very successful for a very long period of time, that has been perfected and innovated on by his son Kyle, and then obviously with Mike McDaniel there too. So it's better than what those guys had brought to the team previously. Is basically what I'm saying. So for all those reasons, the run game can be really, really fun to watch, and I'm very excited about it. So, like, if to answer your question, Steve, it could be very, very good, the run game. This question comes from Nothing Face. He says, "Do you think the Dolphins should have focused on adding depth on the offensive line instead of going so deep on the running back position? I think the South Florida weather is tough, especially on the big guys, and every year our O-line has injury problems. I've seen many seasons where we have had a decent O-line, but we were always one injury away from our quarterback becoming sack bait. And it would be nice to have a solid offensive line play, even if one or two guys go down." I will say that, like, comparing it to some of the other years, like Evan Mathis, if you guys remember that, who was, like, the guy that was in the Packers, and he went to the Bears, and he went to the Dolphins. I can't remember what his name was. People, like, that was another big, like, free agent signing. He got hurt at the beginning of the year. And that offensive line just continued to fall apart. But I think the thing that's different between those years is this offensive line is a lot younger. Like, even like with Brandon Albert and the Unicorns, there was a lot of older, like Jermon Bushrod. There was like a lot of older guys at the end of their career. I think the difference with those offensive lines compared to this one is that they're a lot younger. And I think that's good for injuries, obviously. There's less wear and tear. And they have a lot of room to develop. We don't really know how good these guys could be. Plus, there's a lot of young offensive linemen on this roster, like Solomon Kinley, and there's a lot of guys that could not even make the 5-man rotation or the 5-man starting lineup that could be left out, that are talented guys. So I think there's a lot more depth there. Sorry guys, I accidentally clicked the video. There's a lot of depth there. A lot of young depth there, more than there was in the past. A lot of the guys that you're talking about with some of the offensive lines, you make a great point, is a lot of those offensive lines fell apart, but the backups that were on those teams were older too, that weren't good players. And some of those offensive lines that fell apart, we ended up picking people off the street, like Sam Young, and some of those guys. And so I think that, like I said, just to clarify, the difference is younger talent and more depth. There is definitely more depth than those previous offensive lines. This next question comes from Mike. He says, with 17 games, do you believe Tua has a decent chance at throwing 30 touchdowns this season? That would be awesome. Yeah, he can, especially with the run game. And if you look at, like, the Shanahan offense in the play-action game and how insanely good it is, and how insanely hard it is to defend if you get the run game going, it makes your job, and especially for an athletic quarterback like Tua, it makes his job a lot easier, and it gives him a lot of, like, easy throws that are even down the field. So, yeah, I think match the talent with the scheme, yes. He definitely could. This next game, especially with the tight ends, like if Hunter Long continues his trajectory in the right direction, for sure. This next question comes from Steve. He says, if the team falls flat this year by failing to make the playoffs and or doesn't finish with a winning record, what do you see happening with personnel changes, front office coaches, and players alike? Tua won't be here. If Sean Payton Here's the thing with here's what the Dolphins cannot do. They cannot go after Sean Payton. And I know nobody wants to hear that. Man, I kind of just broke my brain because I thought of a different avenue with Sean Payton. Okay, here's what I would do if I was Stephen Ross. I would not even entertain Sean Payne. I know a lot of people are going to freak out about that. I don't care about this. Listen, if he wants to, like, I'm not going to have him be like, we're going to be, second fiddle to anyone. I don't want to even worry about switching head coaches with this offense. I just would go out and, honestly, I would go after Aaron Rodgers or some of these other veteran quarterbacks that aren't happy and go try to win a title. If the team fails, it's because of Tua. It's not because of Mike McDaniel. And I haven't even seen the man coach a game yet, and I'm saying that. But I really do believe in this scheme. I do believe in Mike McDaniel. Everybody who's played under the man has nothing but great things to say, and that is not a common thing, ladies and gentlemen, at all. That is very rare. So, yeah, I think to answer your question, if things don't go well, I think the personnel changes that you will see, Steve, is Tua. I don't think you'll see any front office changes, but I think Tua would definitely will get kicked out. Now, the wild card thing is if Stephen Ross just goes full Stephen Ross and then just chases Sean Payton all over the place, then that's going to be a mess. But, yeah. Anyway, this next question comes from the Gamer. He goes, thoughts on Connor Williams playing center? I think it will be a good idea since he struggled with penalties at left guard. He himself has said he would rather play, I think, right guard, which I'm like, okay, it's interesting. So I don't know. I don't think he's really ever played center for a long period of time. Now, I could be completely wrong about that. Didn't he play tackle at Texas? I can't remember. Anyway, the point is, we haven't seen it yet. Clearly, Mike and Chris had this vision for him when they signed him, and I believe in Mike's eye for talent like that. He's been around this scheme and what it takes to be successful in it for so long that I trust the man. So I trust his judgment on that. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that. This next question comes from Richard Rodriguez. He says, how long do you think it will take this offense to gel, and what will determine that? The offense will take as long as Tua will take to have at least consistent success. So however fast Tua starts will be the determining factor in that. Now, again, like, it can't be terrible around the man, obviously, because football is a team game. But I feel like, I don't know, we'll see. Honestly, there is no determining factor. Obviously, Tua coming along faster than other players would be a huge help to that. But it would honestly just, I think, I guess I'll just stick with that to answer your question, Richard. It would just come down to Tua and how fast he kind of gels with the offense. This next question comes from Henry. He says, would you be opposed to trading for Garrett Bradbury, the center from Minnesota? He's athletic. We can kick CW back, Connor Williams back to guard, and have Eichenberg and AJ, Austin Jackson, duke it out for right tackle. I wouldn't say that's a terrible idea. It's clear to me, though, that they're not going to do that. They could have went out and got J.C. Treader as well. Maybe Bradbury was a better fit for the scheme, as like you point out. They're not. I don't think maybe they will, but it seems to me that they had this kind of slotted to be Connor Williams' job all along. This next question comes from Mark. He says, can Tua win a playoff game on the road, and particularly a bad weather game? I don't know about that. I don't know. Obviously, he hasn't played well in bad weather. Who knows if he could do that or not? What I'm really worried about is actually getting to the playoffs and him putting together a successful regular season. Can Tua do that? We'll have to see. So yeah, I don't really know. It's a good question mark because obviously his game against the Titans was really not great at all. He did not control the ball well in that game at all. The play calling was very bad, whether that was just because the staff sucked with, what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. Who the heck was... we had... I don't remember his name. I keep thinking of Chad O'Shea and Chan Gailey. I can't remember the other... Who's the guy? Who's the guy? The tight end, our tight ends coach. Who knows? Anyway, who knows? You know, I do know this, but watching that game, Tua was not controlling the ball well. Even him himself admitted the fact that he needs to do a better job at throwing in bad weather. So who knows? I just hope he has a really good regular season. We'll end here on the gamer. He says, I feel like Tua is getting way too much hate, especially for only playing 2 seasons and having the worst offensive line. It's not even just the bad offensive line and the bad run game, which is the run game has been really bad. It's also the fact that nobody in the building wanted to take accountability for what they were doing wrong and all blamed Tua for it, which is why Brian Flores got fired in the first place. He just handled the offense so bad. And I think he honestly still doesn't realize that. But, yeah, you could not have handled that as bad as Brian. I mean, with all of the changes in offensive coordinators and everything else, like, it was just bad. It was all bad. And I think that was his biggest mistake, obviously. So, that's it. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys made it through the terrible reading of the recaps and made it to the fan Q&A. But yeah, you know, I think overall it's been a little bit disappointing. The start, it's going to be really awesome to see how well they do against the Bears and the joint practices. I'm very excited about that. That's next Wednesday. Obviously, like I said at the start of the video, that you can watch it, I guess. Who knows how much they're going to show, actually. But the Dolphins are a much more talented team than the Bears, so it'll be interesting to see if they don't take advantage of that. And I think it's really smart to have these joint practices early on like they are. If they don't take advantage of that, I'm going to be really concerned about where the offense is headed. But yeah, I would say disappointing first 2 days so far. I'm very excited to do a video on the joint practices. And again, it's not something that wasn't not to be expected from the offense's slow start, but I'm just sick and tired of reading the same stuff every year. And that's the reason I would say I'm disappointed. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What you guys think at the start of training camp, how you guys feel about it. Yeah, that's it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for leaving your questions, by the way. Very, very, very obviously nice of you to do. And I'll see you guys in the next one.